This 6-character code is everywhere in travel documents, in emailed booking confirmation, on a boarding pass, printed on a bag tag. It follows a traveler from the time they make a reservation until the journey's over. This code, sometimes called a booking reference or record locator, is linked to a document intimately known to travel agents, airlines, and even national security authorities: a passenger name record. So what is the meaning and purpose of this necessary yet controversial document? You can't get on a plane without a PNR. That's because to an airline, a passenger name record is a virtual version of you. It's a digital file that stores information that a traveler provides at reservation: their name, travel dates, flight itinerary, contact details, seat number, and sometimes more. A passenger never actually sees their PNR file, but they are constantly interacting with the key to it, a 6-character PNR code. Now, PNR files have two main purposes. The first purpose is to allow airlines, travel agents, and airport handling agents to easily access information relevant to the traveler's booking, or share this data with other carriers. For example, when they're operating a connecting flight or serving an air train transfer. This way, a person will safely arrive at a destination, and no member of the travel group will get lost or singled out. Its second purpose is more dramatic. PNR data is used to stop crime.
We are facing a lot of threats, and especially terrorist attacks, and Brussels, Paris, and so now we have to find tools where we can separate the bad from the good ones.
Yes, law enforcement authorities have used PNRs for decades to successfully uncover terrorists, criminals, and human and drug traffickers. For example, PNR data was instrumental in capturing Mumbai attack plotters in 2008. But how does it work in practice? We'll answer that question by following the PNR's journey, starting with how PNR data is collected in the first place. Meet our passenger. He can book a trip with his travel agent or by himself on Expedia. In both situations, he's required to leave some personal information. There are 3 types of such information included in a PNR file. The first type, mandatory data, includes his or his travel agent's phone as the main contact method, itinerary that details the route and schedule of the journey, his name and the names of everyone in the travel party, ticketing data specifying how the ticket will be issued, and reference info, which refers to the last person who made the changes to the PNR, either a travel agent or an airline operator. Without this information, our passenger can't complete the reservation, but he can also change it at any time after the booking is made. As you can imagine, this is not the most detailed record, as airlines often collect much more data. There's also optional information, and it can range from payment method and credit card number to email address, age details, meal and seat preferences, frequent flyer number, and more. These are mostly decided by the commercial needs of a specific airline. What's not decided by the airline are so-called Secure Flight Passenger Data Elements, or SFPD. The SFPD data is sent to the TSA 72 hours before the flight to let them decide what travelers must be checked more thoroughly than the others. SFPD includes such details as a passenger's full name as it appears on an ID, their date of birth, gender, and something called a redress number. If a passenger has the same name as someone on TSA's watch list, they can receive a redress number, which will let them avoid vigorous screening. The TSA will use it to decide what travelers must be checked more thoroughly than the others.
Please no.
These 3 categories of data form a PNR file. So, how is PNR generated? A PNR is created in a central or computer reservation system, a software used by airlines to store their inventory and record transactions. If the flight is booked directly on an airline's website, the PNR will be generated in a CRS. But if the reservation is made through a travel agent or an online booking website, the PNR is created on a global distribution system like Sabre and Amadeus. Quite often, airlines host their inventory directly on a GDS, so everything happens there. It's common for travel agents to manually log passenger details, but at OTAs, everything is automated. The record locator itself is also generated automatically by the system. A booking reference is usually a 6-character code consisting of letters and numbers, seemingly assigned at random. but they're actually generated by an algorithm to avoid unsafe combinations. For example, some systems omit characters that can be confusing in some fonts, like zeros and the letter O, ones and I's, or eights and B's. Record locators are also often compared to a list of profanities, though funny coincidences still happen. But what happens when a person books a connected flight operated by different airlines using different reservation systems? In such cases, a super PNR is generated. This passenger plans a journey from New York to Ubud. This trip would have her change flights 2 times, in Rome and then in Delhi. How would that work? Well, the initial carrier operating from New York to Rome would create a master itinerary with a super PNR. It will then send copies of that to other airlines involved in the journey. Carriers serving the flights from Rome to Delhi and from Delhi to Ubud will confirm their portions of the trip and update the master itinerary with their own record locators. This way, the first airline that holds the super PNR is connecting all PNR codes under one booking reference and ensures the exchange of updates. In turn, a passenger will receive one master PNR in her booking confirmation email. PNRs are not just identification codes, of course. They are collections of data, and data is a kind of sensitive issue. Most people won't argue that they need to share their name or email with an airline to arrive at a destination. But what about data that is typically guarded much more rigorously in other settings? Let's talk about how PNR data is handled after the journey ends. Both in the US and in the European Union, there are rules to how this data can be used and when it should be deleted. According to these rules, PNR data can be kept by security authorities for a period of 5 years, and it must be depersonalized 6 months after it has been received. Additionally, every state that takes part in the program must have a system to handle and protect data and a data protection officer in place. Even after 5 years, it's not entirely purged from the system. It's simply archived and can still be accessed in response to a threat for another 10 years. The good news is that airlines can't sell or share PNR data for commercial use. They can't even use it for their own purposes, such as customer segmentation or dynamic pricing.
The question you have to ask is, does the ordinary man or woman in the street have a lot of qualms when they go and open a club card with a major supermarket in which they provide something like 4 times as much information without really an awful lot of safeguards, in my opinion, as to how it will be used on a regular basis without demurring?
Of course, this doesn't mean that PNR databases can't be hacked by criminals or used by commercial structures, as occurred in the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal. These concerns loom over the future of PNRs and how they may be handled before long. Today, the travel industry is experiencing massive interoperability changes, and the PNR may transform as well. If you remember from our video on IATA, they are putting a lot of effort into the adoption of the new Distribution Capability Program. One of its elements is One Order, an offer and order management platform aimed at creating a single identifier for all products and services passengers ordered. This means that such files as e-tickets that hold payment information, electronic miscellaneous documents that include purchased ancillaries, and PNRs that capture itinerary details will be neatly packaged in a single order ID.
And it is going to take a wrench to break away from the PNR. I do think we are seeing moves towards that. I think it will be slow.
The new system will make it easier for airlines and travel agents to manage documents. And it may also mean the end of the PNR as we know it. Comment down below what travel concepts you want us to explain next. Check out our TravelWorks content and the series of explainers by Andrei Chabotarov, who's Altec Soft's Travel Technology Competence Lead. See you in the next video.